Hello, and here we are. We're gonna start on the document checklist, how to fill it out. Okay, if you watch my previous videos, you will know that I explain many of the things, how to get married, and what you need for the sponsorship application. Now, with this video, we're gonna start the document checklist, which is the most important document. Well, the most important form you will need to get to know. Okay, now I mentioned before that first and most important thing, again, you need to make sure that the form is the latest one, and you will find the date on the each form on the bottom. Okay, so once you come across the form, it's gonna say document checklist. Okay, and on the bottom you will see the date. Okay, this is August 2022, which means it's the latest form made for this form. Okay, now uh, I'm not going to go through every single step that you need to take, but obviously you need to read everything. Okay, make sure you read 2, 3, 5 times. Okay, how to once you apply, how to submit the application via paper, via online, and whatnot. Okay, uh, the top part of the application, it says if you cannot provide one or more documents required by this checklist, you must provide a detailed written explanation for each missing document. So make sure you do that. Okay, if there's any documents you cannot submit, make sure you write down on this separate piece of paper why you cannot do that, what is the reason. Okay, first thing here, do not submit originals unless otherwise stated, as the documents you submit will not be returned. So keep that in mind, that whatever you send originals, they will not be returned. So you can, okay, but if you do so, they will not be returned to you. So keep all these things in mind. Information about previous examination to be completed by sponsor. So each part of the form explains who needs to um, uh, fill out this part. So in my previous video, I explained that there's two sets of forms, one for the sponsor and one for the applicant. Okay, the principal applicant. But when you look at it, at the end of the day, all the forms are intertwined, they're mixed, so they need to be filled out by both people. Okay, so here, as you see, it says information about previous examination to be completed by sponsor. Okay, and then down the line in the application you will have where the principal applicant will have to fill out the information. And that is one of the reasons I did everything myself, instead of having my husband filling out the thing, and then I'm going back and forth, and especially he's in Morocco, I'm in Canada. It's just it won't work out. It's either one or the other fills out everything and makes it simple. Ask for the things that you need from your spouse, the information, their family's information, and everything else. So information about previous examination to be completed by sponsor. Okay, the person my sponsor, so this is what I'm saying, reading for myself. I would say the person I'm sponsor was declared as my spouse or partner and was already examined as a non-accompanied dependent when I applied for permanent resident visa. This means that if you applied before just for them to come visit you, okay, but they did not receive an immigrant visa, okay, you have to, like I'm saying, make sure you know what you're reading. And then you have note, if you have never applied for a permanent resident visa, answer no. So obviously I would answer no because I never applied for any visa. If you did, make sure you read the information of what to do about that. Part A, forms required, document checklist for sponsor and principal applicant. You see, as I'm saying, they're intertwined. Okay, they're separate forms, but they are, however, intertwined. So you have to pay attention to who is filling out what. Number one, document checklist. Everything that you're checking off means that this is what you are putting into your application. So this would be the document checklist, okay? And this includes dependent children, IMM 5533 form. This would be the form filled out only by the principal applicant. Okay, so if you're Canadian citizen and your spouse is in Morocco and they've been married before and they have children from that previous marriage, they would have dependent children. Okay, now if their children are age of 18 and over, they will have to fill out the application, the forms by themselves on their own. Okay, and everything will be submitted together. But if the children are under 18, this form needs to be filled out by the principal applicant for their dependent children. Okay. uh, Second thing is for the sponsor. Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna go back to the document checklist. This form, the document checklist, so once you fill it out and you print it out, this would be your covering page, which means that this form would be on the very top of your application. Okay, if you're sending via paper, it will be on top of your application. If you're saying sending it online, it would be the first document, it would be the first form you send. Okay. uh, Okay, another thing, the second one is sponsor. The application to sponsor a sponsorship agreement, and so IMM 1344 needs to be completed and signed by you, which means the sponsor. Okay, so pay attention. Here you have the sponsor, so you're the one filling out this application, this form, but the person that you're sponsoring, your husband or your wife in Morocco, they will have to um, sign the document as well. Okay, so keep an eye on these things: who's signing, where, and how and why. Okay, so very very important. Okay. Application fees. Again, if you click on the blue link here, it will take you to the fees. Make sure you pay everything. Well, if you're able, make sure to pay everything all at once, so it's application is not stopped for these reasons, and it will stop the process and you will have to wait until you pay everything. Okay. Make sure you click on the link. It will tell you how much to pay for everything. Again, another important thing is to pay for the biometrics as well right away, because once they receive your application and your spouse needs to go and do the biometrics, if you didn't pay it, then you're gonna have to wait to pay for the fee and then for them to do the biometrics. Okay. The next one would be financial evaluation. This is the form. If your spouse has, like I'm saying, dependent children, they would have to fill this form. Okay. Otherwise, you don't need, if your spouse has no children, you don't need to fill out this form. Another thing is pay attention to the box. Every time, like I said, if you check out the box, check off, this means that you're submitting this form. But if you are not, make sure that every single box that you are leaving, that you are not submitting this form, do not leave it empty. Always write NA on the bottom once you print out the application, the form. So you print out the form, whatever you are not submitting, okay, you check off NA beside it. Okay, do not leave any of these boxes empty. Always write NA. Okay. Next one will be a class of application. Okay, you check off the box and read everything. You have to read the whole thing. Okay, so to apply under the sponsor common in Canada, you must be living with your sponsor in Canada. So since your spouse is in Morocco, and uh, like I'm saying, you have to pay attention. You see here, sponsored persons, principal applicant, and family members. So your spouse need to fill this part of the form. And principal applicant and family members, again, do not get confused. Family members meaning dependent children, not mom, not dad, not siblings. Family members as dependent children. The only family members as your immediate family, parents and siblings, you will come across additional family information. That's it, not all the other forms. Okay, so principal applicant and family members, children under 18. Okay, now if a Moroccan citizen is reading this, okay, they would say, I am currently living outside Canada and I'm applying under the family class. Okay, I am also including an open work permit. The answer would be no. Okay, if you want to, you can say yes, but that would be only if you are coming as a visitor to Canada. But if you're just applying for the PR, you would say no. Okay, next one will be generic application form Canada. This is the most important one for the applicant, 0008. This would be the one where you put all your information, okay, for yourself and your dependents. Okay, so make sure you read the application and you go through the application properly. Okay, country specific requirements. Okay, this would be the form that you would have to write down your travels. If you watch my previous videos, you will see that I was actually talking about it. I can actually just go back and actually show supplementary information, your travels. So this is the form that you need to include. Okay, and you would find it on your get your checklist forms and instructions. Okay, going back, so you would have to find this form, fill it out and write it here, because each country has specific requirements, and this would be one of those. And also getting all your documents stamped in Morocco from multiple offices. If you watch previous videos, you will see again what I'm talking about. Okay, so those are the specific requirements, that all those documents need to be stamped. Here we go, additional family information. This would be the form that is for your siblings and your parents, because if you do not fill this fill out this form, you won't be able to sponsor your family members later when you come to Canada, and you want to bring your mom or your family, your dad, your sisters, your brothers to visit you. You won't be able to do so because you didn't fill out this additional family information. So this is for the applicant. Keep in mind that we are still under the applicant. Okay, like I'm saying, sponsor himself or herself, we don't have many things to fill out. Most of the things are filled out by the applicant, principal applicant, which means a Moroccan. Schedule A background declaration 5669. Again, very important to make sure you read everything. You check off the box. This is the document checklist. So now, as we are moving forward, both the sponsor and principal applicant, so both, you see, so it was the sponsor first and then the principal applicant, and now they're both. Relationship information, sponsorship relation 5532. You check off. Obviously you're going to submit this form, and just read this part very, very, very carefully, because the sponsor must sign the following sections: part 8 question 9 and part C question 12. So make sure who is signing what and where. Anyhow, I will be going through each form separately, so you will be seeing what it needs to be filled out, when and where and how. Number 11, use of representative 5476. Like I mentioned before, this form needs to be filled out. I will give you an example. I filled out this form for my husband. I wanted all the information to come to me, to my email. I wanted to be the one who will see what's going on, and then I would let my husband know what he needs to do. Okay, so you fill this out if you want a representative. A sponsor can have their own representative, and then they fill out their own form, and principal applicant, they can have their own representative. If you guys have one lawyer to do your papers, then you just need to fill out one form, IMM 5476, for both of you. But if you guys want to have different representatives, then you have to fill out two of them. If the sponsor wants to have all the information come to them, make sure you give your number, your email, your address, everything, and all the information will be coming to you. As you see on the bottom, I checked that off, right? Because I did, like I said, for my husband, I got all the information. But if you're not appointing a representative, you check off that, okay? If you're appointing representative, you check off that, which I did for myself, and then I filled out the form, being a representative for my husband, okay? Authority to release personal information to a designated individual, 5475. This form would be, let's say I want to have a friend who I want them to know what's going on with my application. You can fill out this one, okay? Now, obviously you're not going to, if you don't want to have that happen, you don't have to just write NA on the bottom, right? So do not check off the box, just write NA, and then obviously not applicable. If you want, then obviously you check off this one instead of this one, and you fill out the form 5475, okay? And you put the information of your friend or family member, whoever you want them to, know what's going on with your papers, okay? Part B, supporting documents required. Now all these you have to read carefully. Obviously you have supporting documents for sponsors, so pay attention for sponsor, okay? So this is just for the person that's sponsoring, okay? If Canadian citizen, you would write check off the box status in Canada, and then if you're a permanent resident, you check off that, and you submit the copies of your permanent resident card and what's all the information that they need. If you're a Canadian citizen, you check off that box, and then you can choose whichever one you would like to submit, either Canadian passport, Canadian birth certificate, citizenship card, certificate or card, both sides. So it's your decision. The next one, are you the sponsor, Canadian citizen living outside of Canada? Obviously I would say no, okay, if you're a Canadian citizen living in Canada. But if you are by any chance living outside of the Canada, you would have to check off yes, and then give all the other information, okay, where you're living and whatnot. But then again, keep in mind, once your spouse have to, they get approved and they're coming to Canada, you would have to come and live in Canada with them, okay? So that would be something that okay, my spouse is living in Canada and I'm living in whatever, Germany. It wouldn't make sense, right? So number 3, do you, the sponsor, and the person you sponsor have a children together? If the answer is yes, you will have to read the part on the bottom and submit the needed documentation. If no, just check off no, simple. You see if you answered yes to the question above, please include a copy of the following for each child with your application. So make sure, like I'm saying, read everything, okay? Again, do not leave the box blank, always write NA on the bottom, okay? Previous relationships, are you the sponsor currently married to anyone other than your person you're sponsoring? So if you are married to someone else in Morocco, obviously you won't be able to get married to a Canadian citizen, so this answer has to be no, okay? Have you, the sponsor, previously been sponsored yourself for a permanent resident? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, let me go back. Are you the sponsor? You see here, keep an eye. Are you the sponsor currently married to anyone other than the person you're sponsoring? Again, it would be no, obviously, okay? Because if I'm married to anyone else in Canada here, I won't be able to get married in Morocco. That's why you have that documents got from Canadian embassy that there is no impediments to your marriage, right? So obviously would be no. Have you the sponsor previously been sponsored yourself for permanent residence? Now, this is for the Canadian citizens. If you were sponsored before, for example, I did when I came to Canada. I got married with my husband and ex-husband, and he sponsored me. Okay, so I had to click yes, and have to provide the name of your ex-husband. Okay, because obviously you have to be divorced in order to marry a Moroccan. So, and you put their date of birth. Okay. Have you, the sponsor, ever been previously married? So obviously, again, it would be yes, because that's how I got my permanent residence in the first place. I got married, lived with my ex-husband for many years, and then we divorced, and obviously I was married. Yes, the thing can be that you were in a common law relationship, but that's what I'm saying. You have to read everything. If yes, how many times have you previously been married once. If the answer is zero, you're just checking off whatever is your situation, right? If you answered yes, provide a photocopy of the appropriate following documents for each of your previous marriages. Okay. If you divorced, provide your final divorce certificate. Obviously, yes, you will have to check that off. If the marriage was annulled, provide your final, whatever the case is, your situation, you check on it. If your former spouse is deceased, provide the death certificate. So my ex-husband has passed away, so I did check that off and provided the death certificate. Have you, the sponsor, ever previously been in common relationship? Whatever the answer is in your situation, you check it off. I wasn't. Okay, so you have to provide additional information maybe later on if in your case you were in common law relationship. Number 5, employment source of income. Do not complete this action if you're Quebec resident. So again, always pay attention. Okay, if you're working in Canada, check that off. Read the part what you need to submit, all the information, the original letter from your employer and how much you're making and whatnot. Okay, so, and then if you're not working in Canada, do not leave the blank, just put NA, always NA. Supporting documents for sponsored persons, principal applicant, and all family members. All family members, again, meaning their dependent children. Okay, not mom, not dad, not sisters. Okay, identity documents, travel documents, and passports. Okay, so you check that off. Obviously, you're gonna submit the documents, the identity documents, and travel. So most recently issued passport, you make a copy of that. This is for the principal applicant. Okay, so they have to make a copy of their passport, front page. Okay, and all the pages if they traveled anywhere before. Okay, so read all the parts that are connected to that. So again, birth certificate. Okay, again, because they are born in Morocco and it's in Arabic, so basically they will have to, again, as it says in the beginning, that all the documents need to be translated from whatever language, right, to either English or French. Okay. um, if listed in country-specific requirements for your country of citizenship or residence, copies of national ID, copy of your family booklet, very important. Okay, so all these, if listed in a country-specific, meaning that all these, birth certificate, copies of ID, family booklet, all the other documents, they need to be stamped before used for the application. Okay, so they have to be stamped in family court, in high court, in all the other places, so make sure you search about that. Civil documents. um, This would be, please submit photocopies documents pertaining to a specific situation below. Check only the boxes that apply to you and provide the documents specified. Cure a relationship. If you, now they're asking, if you, the principal applicant, are legally married to your sponsor, provide your marriage certificate. Obviously, what you got your marriage certificate, you translated it from Arabic to English, okay, or French. That is the one that you will have to submit, okay. So this box here, if your principal applicant have been issued a civil union certificate document, provide a copy. If you are providing a copy, check that off. If you're not providing a copy, do not check it, just write NA. Previous relationship, all these questions here would be if you were married before, if you were sponsored before and whatnot. Read each part properly, check it off if it's, in your situation. If not, none of the above apply to me. You check that off. All the other boxes, like I'm saying, do not leave them empty. Always write NA, 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 NA. Okay? So they will know that you actually read the question. Okay? Here we go. Additional information about children. Okay? Like I'm saying, if you have family members, which means dependent children, read this part carefully and submit all the needed information. If you do not have any children from previous marriage, and this is again, I'm talking to Moroccan citizens, principal applicant, you write NA here and NA under each box. Okay, if you don't have any children. If you do have children from previous marriage, before you got married to a Canadian citizen, then you will have to read everything properly and submit the needed documentation for each of your children. Okay. Police certificate. Here we go. You check that off. Check that off. You will have to submit your police record from Morocco and stamped. Okay. That police record you can obtain in French, so you don't have to translate it, right? The country where you currently live, if you live there for 6 months or more. So if you are Moroccan citizen and you lived in Germany for 8 months, then you would have to ask them for the for the police record as well. In my case, my husband never lived anywhere, so I checked that off and I put Morocco, right? Canadian police certificate, this is for the people Moroccan that live in Canada, so you will check NA here because obviously you're not living in Canada. Military service, if you didn't do any military service, you don't check that off, you just put NA and you say no, you haven't done any military service. If you did by any chance, you have to check yes and then get all the information and documents needed for that. Okay, checks this box if you're providing military document. If you check it, then you have to provide the documents. If not, just write NA. Photos, okay, make sure the photos are the recent one and the right size. They have to be right size, very important. So you click on this blue link and it will give you all the right requirements for the photos. Very important. One of the photos in the back has to be written on the shop that did your photos. They have to write down the name of the shop and all required information. Okay, just one of the photos. The other photo can be empty in the back. Okay, medical examination, you will not do this right now, principal applicant. Okay, you will not do this now. This will be done later, so you write NA beside the box. Proof of relationship to sponsor. Okay, so this is again for the principal applicant. They need to do this, which I don't even know why are they asking them to do this. Provide the documents in both following bullet, like read all these. Okay, are you and your spouse currently living together? Obviously no, he's in Morocco, I'm in Canada, unless I'm doing inbound application, which would be they're already in Canada. But anyhow, a proof of contact, provide letters and whatnot, proof of sponsor visits, such as airline tickets. So this is very important to read all of these, okay? Now, if you guys are currently living together in Canada, you will check off yes, and then give all the proof of uh, where you guys live together and how are you living together. If you did not check the least two boxes about I'm unable to provide documents, so again, if this is not your case, write NA down below the box. Do you and your spouse have any children together? We don't, but if you do, you have to provide the copies of the birth certificate for each child. Okay, is this first marriage for both you and sponsor? So obviously, uh, I had to say no because I was married before. So um, then again, they're asking all these questions, again and again and again. So you have to be very careful and mindful of, your answers. Okay. Have you and your sponsor been married a minimum of 2 years? Obviously no. Okay, so check here the answers to yes to all of the four of the questions above 8 to D. Okay, if you check this box, you do not need to provide, which means that you guys are more than 2 years together, you guys live in Canada together, so you don't have to provide any of the other information. But if you answered no to any of these questions, then you have to provide the letters, the pictures, and all the other things. So make sure you read all this properly, one by one. Okay, and that's about that. Okay, and then the last part is actually double, triple, 5 times check the application before submitting it. If all of them are signed, they have to be signed and dated properly. Okay, so application to sponsor agreement undertaken. I am 341 sponsor and principal applicant. So both people. Okay, so here is telling you application to sponsor, sponsorship agreement and undertaking IMM 1344. Okay, so this form needs to be signed by both sponsor and principal applicant. So make sure you do that. Generic application 0008, which means this is the form for the principal applicant alone. Only they sign the form. Okay, so like I'm saying, the bottom of the form document checklist will tell you who needs to sign which form. Okay, so make sure you um, pay attention to who's signing what and where. Okay, uh that would be that. Oh my god, I'm blabbing for like half an hour going through each step. But anyhow, if you guys have any questions or any concerns, let me know. I tried my best to keep it as short as possible. Okay, and as simple as possible. So that's about that. Thank you so much for watching again, and I wish you guys all the best.